A tech millionaire hired a poor girl as his girlfriend, but her toast at dinner exposed the truth. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a chilly evening in downtown San Francisco when Rachel found herself walking into one of the most upscale restaurants in the city. She tugged at her second-hand dress, the fabric a little too tight, and adjusted the frayed hem of her shoes. Despite the opulence surrounding her, she couldn't help but feel out of place. The soft murmur of conversations, the clink of silverware on delicate china, and the warm glow from the chandeliers only highlighted the contrast between her and the patrons around her. She had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she'd go through with this blind date. Just one night, Rachel told herself. One night, and it'll be over. She glanced nervously at the menu in front of her, not even recognizing most of the items. Her phone buzzed in her purse, and she quickly checked the message from Jenny. Table 6, he's waiting. You'll love him. Rachel tucked her phone away and stood, scanning the room for the man she was supposed to meet. Her eyes landed on a sharply dressed man sitting alone near the back. He had dark, neatly styled hair, and his focus was on his phone. She took a deep breath and walked towards him, her heart pounding in her chest. Hi, you must be Kevin, she said, forcing a bright smile. The man looked up, blinking in surprise, then hesitated. Hi. I'm not Kevin, he replied, his voice calm but confused. Rachel's cheeks burned as she realized her mistake. Oh my God, she muttered mortified. I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else. The man's smile softened, and he chuckled lightly. It's okay, don't worry about it. I'm Liam, he said, his voice still warm. Liam Parker. Rachel blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Liam Parker? She repeated, her mind racing. The name was familiar, but she couldn't place it. He simply nodded and motioned for her to sit. Looks like you're stuck with me for the night. Despite herself, Rachel couldn't help but laugh at the situation. She had already embarrassed herself, so there was no harm in continuing the conversation. They both settled in, and to her surprise, the conversation flowed smoothly. Rachel talked about her job as a waitress, her dreams of one day owning a small art studio, and how she was struggling to make ends meet. Liam listened attentively, occasionally asking questions and offering a soft smile. There was something different about him, something genuine. He wasn't like the men she usually met in these kinds of places, who often seemed more interested in showing off their wealth than actually listening. Liam shared a little about his work in the tech industry, though he kept it vague. I'm in tech, he said, with a shrug. You know, apps, software, that sort of thing. Rachel smiled, trying to keep the conversation light. Oh, so you build apps and things? That sounds complicated. I'm terrible with computers. Liam chuckled. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. As they continued talking, Rachel found herself relaxing. Liam wasn't what she expected, but in a good way. He seemed kind, down to earth, and genuinely interested in what she had to say. But just as she was starting to feel comfortable, her phone buzzed again. She checked it quickly, her heart sinking when she read the text. Hey Rachel, I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you. Kevin. She looked up at Liam, her face flushing with embarrassment. Oh my God, you're not Kevin, are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's smile faltered for a moment, but then he shook his head. No, I'm not Kevin, he said softly. Rachel's stomach churned. I am so sorry, she said, standing up quickly, her hands trembling. I don't know what to say. This is so embarrassing. Liam stood up too, his expression kind but understanding. It's okay, Rachel. Don't worry about it. But Rachel was already grabbing her coat, her face burning with humiliation. She turned and hurried towards the door, hoping to escape before anyone noticed. Liam watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. He had planned to correct her from the start, but for some reason, he found himself reluctant to do so. As he stood there, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just met someone special. He just didn't know why the thought of never seeing her again bothered him so much. Now let's get back to Rachel. After the awkward encounter at the restaurant, Rachel couldn't stop replaying the events in her mind. Her face burned with embarrassment as she walked back to her small apartment in the heart of San Francisco. The city's lights blurred past her as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. She couldn't help but wonder who Liam really was. Despite the initial discomfort, something about him stuck with her. His calm demeanor, the way he listened so intently, the fact that he didn't judge her for her secondhand dress and shoes. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. She had been on countless blind dates, but none had left her feeling this seen. Rachel tossed her coat onto the couch and sank into the chair, staring at the phone in her hand. She was still processing everything when a message popped up. It was from Jenny. "Girl, I know it's embarrassing, but that guy you met tonight? He's Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Technologies. He's kind of a big deal." Her heart skipped a beat as the reality of the situation hit her. The man she had mistakenly thought was a random tech worker was actually a millionaire. The man she had just sat across from, laughed with, and shared stories with. The realization made her head spin. She ran her fingers through her hair, trying to calm herself. "There's no way," she muttered. He didn't even mention his wealth. But then again, Liam had been so down to earth, so easy to talk to. Could it be possible he hadn't been pretending? She put the phone down, feeling a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Her mind kept going back to his smile, the way he had made her feel comfortable in a place where she was clearly out of her element. That was the strangest part. She had spent most of her life feeling like an outsider. But with Liam, she felt real. The next morning, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated before answering. "Hello. Rachel, it's Liam. From last night." Her breath caught in her throat. Hi," she stammered. "I hope I didn't freak you out too much yesterday," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "I was wondering if you'd like to meet up again. Maybe grab a coffee? I'd like to apologize for the misunderstanding." Rachel's heart raced. She could feel the butterflies in her stomach, but she tried to stay calm. "I don't know if I'm the best person to apologize to," she replied, nervously running her fingers through her hair. "You were pretty upfront about who you were. I just didn't catch it." There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a soft laugh. "Yeah, I guess I wasn't too clear about that. But you were so honest with me. It's rare to find someone who doesn't treat me like I'm just some guy with money." Rachel didn't know how to respond. She had been honest with him, yes. But the truth was, she was still reeling from the fact that she had spent time with a millionaire and hadn't known it. "How about we meet at that same coffee shop? I promise I won't be pretending to be anyone else this time," he added, his voice teasing. Rachel smiled, despite herself. "All right, coffee sounds good." The meeting was set. As the day went on, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation. She tried to focus on her work, but every few minutes, her mind would wander back to Liam. What did he want from her? Was this just a casual coffee, or was he genuinely interested in getting to know her? When she arrived at the coffee shop, she found him sitting at the same table by the window, just like last time. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and he wore a casual jacket and jeans, looking every bit the part of the tech millionaire he was. But when he looked up and saw her, his face lit up with a genuine smile that made her heart flutter. "Hey, Rachel. You look great," he said as she approached. She blushed, not used to compliments like that. "Thanks," she said, sitting down across from him. For the next hour, they talked about everything and nothing. Liam asked her about her life, about her dreams, and about what made her happy. And for the first time, in a long time, Rachel found herself opening up to someone she barely knew. The more she talked, the more she realized how easy it was to be herself around him. She wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was just Rachel, and that was enough. As the coffee cups emptied and the conversation turned to quieter topics, Liam leaned in slightly, his eyes never leaving hers. "I have to be honest, Rachel," he said, his voice soft. "When we first met, I was going to offer you a job. But now, I don't know what I want. I feel like we have something here. Something real." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just about business anymore. It felt like something more. She looked at him, searching his face for any sign that he was just playing with her. But there was no game here. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I wasn't expecting any of this. I just thought you were a regular guy." Liam smiled. "I am. I promise you. Rachel, I'm not trying to impress you with my money. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing here." Rachel felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. Maybe, just maybe, This was the start of something real. She smiled back, the tension in her chest easing. Well, let's take this one step at a time, okay? Liam nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. One step at a time. The next few days passed in a blur of emotions for Rachel. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and the conversation they had shared over coffee. It was clear to her now that there was something real between them, something deeper than just a simple blind date or a business deal. But as much as she tried to convince herself that it was all just a coincidence, she knew that Liam's wealth and status still made her uneasy. She was still just a waitress from a small neighborhood, struggling to make ends meet, while he was a tech millionaire, with a life she couldn't even begin to imagine. That thought stayed with her as she continued with her daily routine. Rachel tried to focus on her work, but every time her phone buzzed, her heart skipped a beat, hoping it would be a message from Liam. After a few days, she received a text from him. It was short but sweet. "Hey Rachel, I was thinking about you today. Would you like to meet for dinner again this week?" She smiled at the message, her heart fluttering. Without hesitation, she replied, "I'd love that." The evening of their dinner arrived, and Rachel dressed carefully, wanting to look her best. She chose a simple but elegant dress, hoping it would make her feel more confident. As she stepped out of her apartment, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. What would tonight be like? Would they pick up where they left off? Or would things feel awkward now that she knew who he really was? When she arrived at the restaurant, she spotted Liam immediately. He was sitting at a corner table, looking as handsome as ever, wearing a sharp suit that made him stand out even in the dim lighting. When their eyes met, he smiled warmly, and Rachel felt a wave of relief wash over her. As she approached the table, he stood up and pulled out the chair for her. "You look stunning," Liam said, his voice sincere. Rachel blushed, feeling a little overwhelmed. "Thank you. You look great too," she replied, taking her seat. The dinner started out easy, with the two of them talking about their favorite foods, the places they wanted to travel to, and funny stories from their past. It felt like a natural continuation of their last conversation, and Rachel couldn't help but feel comfortable in his presence. As the meal went on, though, she noticed Liam watching her closely, his eyes filled with something more than just casual interest. There was a depth to his gaze, something that made her heart race. "Rachel, I need to be honest with you," Liam said after a long pause, breaking the easy flow of their conversation. She looked up, her heart suddenly in her throat. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft. "I don't want you to think that I'm only interested in you because of your circumstances," he began. "I've been thinking a lot about you, about us. And I've realized that what we have, it's not just about me helping you or you being someone to fill a role in my life. I want to get to know the real you, the person you are beyond everything else." Rachel's breath caught in her chest. She wasn't sure what to say, so she just stared at him, trying to process the weight of his words. "Liam, I don't know what to say," she whispered. "This feels so unexpected. I never thought someone like you would be interested in someone like me." He reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "Rachel, it's not about who you think you are or who you think I am. It's about who we are together. And I don't want to hide that from you anymore. I've never met anyone like you. You're real, and that's something rare." Rachel felt a rush of emotions, from disbelief to warmth. She had never felt so seen by someone, especially not someone as successful as Liam. But the doubts still lingered. Was he just saying this because he felt guilty for getting involved with her in the first place? Or did he truly care? "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't think I'm just some charity case, do you?" Liam squeezed her hand gently. "No, Rachel, I don't think that at all. You've never been a charity case to me. You've been someone who's shown me something I didn't even know I was missing. I want to explore what we have, no matter where it goes." Rachel sat there in silence for a moment, her mind racing. She could feel the tension building between them, but it wasn't the kind of tension that made her want to pull away. It was the kind that made her feel like she was on the brink of something new, something exciting, and maybe even something real. She looked at Liam, her heart pounding in her chest. "I don't know where this is going, but I'm willing to find out with you," she said softly. Liam smiled, his eyes full of hope. "That's all I'm asking for." As the night went on, Rachel couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. It wasn't going to be easy. There would be obstacles, doubts, and fears to face. But for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, with Liam. A man who saw her for who she truly was, and not just the circumstances she lived in. And that, she realized, was the beginning of something beautiful. As the weeks passed, Rachel and Liam continued to see each other. Their connection deepened, and although Rachel still found herself amazed by how naturally things were progressing, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being out of her element. Liam, on the other hand, seemed to grow more and more comfortable with her, and their relationship felt more real every day. Yet, there were moments when Rachel found herself questioning it all, wondering if this was just a passing fling for him, something temporary before he went back to his high-powered life in the tech world. Those doubts resurfaced one evening when they were at a charity gala hosted by Liam's company. The event was everything Rachel had expected. A glittering affair with people dressed in expensive suits and gowns, a world she could hardly relate to. As they entered the ballroom, the whispers and stares of the other guests made Rachel feel like she was standing out like a sore thumb. She tried to mask her discomfort with a smile, but it was hard to ignore the way everyone seemed to be scrutinizing her every move. Liam, however, seemed perfectly at ease, introducing her to his colleagues and business partners, never once faltering in his role as the charming CEO. "You look stunning," he whispered as they walked through the crowd, his hand resting gently on her back. Rachel smiled, feeling his warmth, but the unease in her chest wouldn't go away. They moved from one conversation to the next, and Rachel did her best to keep up, asking polite questions and laughing at the right moments. But the whole time, she felt like an imposter. After a while, Liam excused himself to talk to some investors, and Rachel was left standing alone at a table, clutching a glass of wine. She watched as Liam mingled with the other guests, his confidence shining through, while she felt like a fish out of water. The longer she stood there, the more she began to wonder if she truly belonged in his world. Her thoughts were interrupted when a woman in an elegant dress approached her. "You're Rachel, right?" the woman asked, her voice smooth and curious. "I'm Sophie. I've heard so much about you." Rachel blinked, confused. "About me? I don't. Liam talks about you all the time," Sophie interrupted, her smile too sweet to be genuine. "He says you're different, that you're real." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. "I don't really know what to say to that," she replied, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Sophie's smile widened, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, I'm sure. He always has a way of making people feel special." Rachel didn't miss the hint of something darker in Sophie's tone. Before she could respond, Sophie turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Rachel standing there with 1,000 questions running through her mind. Had Liam really been talking about her like that? Was it possible that she had become something more than just a casual fling to him? Or was it just part of the charade, a story he was telling to keep up appearances? She didn't know, and the uncertainty gnawed at her. Later that night, when Liam finally returned to her side, he could sense that something was off. "Rachel, are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle, his brow furrowed with concern. She smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, I'm fine," she lied, not wanting to ruin the night. But Liam wasn't fooled. "What happened?" he pressed, taking her hand. "You can tell me." Rachel took a deep breath, her mind racing. She couldn't keep pretending everything was perfect when she was feeling so uncertain. "It's just, I don't belong here, Liam," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "This world, this life, it's so different from mine. And sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending to be someone I'm not." Liam's expression softened, and he took a step closer to her. "Rachel, listen to me," he said firmly, cupping her face in his hands. "You're not pretending. You are exactly who you're meant to be. You don't need to fit into my world for me to want you in my life. All I care about is you. Who you are, how you make me feel, and the person I see in front of me right now. This isn't a game, Rachel. This is real." His words hit her like a wave, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her doubts lifting. Maybe she didn't have to fit into his world after all. Maybe, just maybe, she had a place in it, just as she was. As they stood there, surrounded by the glittering lights and the hum of the gala, Rachel realized something. She had spent so much time trying to fit into a world she didn't belong in, but Liam had never asked her to change. He had accepted her as she was. And in that moment, she realized that she didn't need to pretend anymore. She could be herself with him, and that was enough. She smiled at him, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've been scared." Liam smiled back, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. You don't need to apologize. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. The following days were a whirlwind for Rachel. She couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said to her at the gala. His words echoed in her mind. You're not pretending. You are exactly who you're meant to be. It felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel the need to be anyone other than herself. She had spent so much of her life trying to fit into the molds others had set for her, but now, with Liam, it felt like she could just be Rachel, the girl who loved art, the girl who had dreams of opening her own studio, the girl who was still figuring things out. The next few weeks with Liam were filled with laughter, long conversations, and quiet moments where Rachel felt like she truly belonged. They spent weekends exploring the city, visiting art galleries, and getting to know each other in ways neither had expected. As their connection deepened, so did Rachel's feelings for Liam. But still, there was a part of her that held back, unsure if this was truly real. She couldn't help but wonder if Liam had ever truly been serious about her, or if he was just playing the role of the perfect boyfriend, like he had played the role of the perfect CEO. Then one evening, as they sat together in the park near the water, watching the sunset, Liam turned to her with a look she hadn't seen before. It was a mixture of tenderness and something else, something deeper, more vulnerable. Rachel, he said, his voice softer than usual, I've been thinking about us. I don't want you to feel like you're just a part of some experiment. I know I've been a little cautious, but I'm ready to take the next step with you, if you are. Rachel's heart skipped a beat. She had heard the words before, from other men, but there was something different about the way Liam said them. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty, just pure sincerity. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she were afraid of what his answer might be. Liam took her hand gently, his thumb brushing against her skin as he spoke. I mean that I'm ready to make this official, Rachel. I'm ready to stop hiding, to stop pretending. I want you in my life for real. No more pretending, no more games. Just us, if that's what you want to. Rachel felt a rush of emotions flood over her. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment when she would have to decide whether she was ready to fully trust him, to let go of her fears and dive into something that could be everything she wanted. She looked into Liam's eyes, searching for any signs of doubt, but all she saw was the same warmth and sincerity that had drawn her to him in the first place. Slowly, she smiled, her heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. I want that too, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I've been scared, but I don't want to be anymore. I want us to be real. Liam's smile matched hers, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, sitting together, hands intertwined, watching the sunset. In that moment, Rachel knew that this was the beginning of something new, something real. Their relationship wasn't perfect, and it wasn't without its challenges, but it was theirs, and that was enough. Over the next few months, their bond only grew stronger. They faced challenges together, supported each other through difficult times, and celebrated each other's successes. Rachel continued to work towards her dream of opening her art studio, and Liam, always by her side, helped her navigate the business side of things, offering advice and encouragement when she needed it most. But it wasn't just the practical things that brought them closer. It was the way they cared for each other, the way they made each other laugh, the way they built a life together, piece by piece. One evening, as they sat in the small studio Rachel had finally opened, surrounded by her art and the soft hum of the city outside, Liam looked at her with a serious expression. Rachel, he said softly, I've been thinking. I want to take this to the next level. I want to build a future with you, not just in business, but in life. Will you marry me? Rachel's heart stopped. She hadn't expected this, not so soon. But as the words sank in, she realized that this was exactly what she had always wanted. To be with someone who saw her, who loved her, who accepted her for who she truly was. Yes, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, I will. And just like that, their journey together became something even more beautiful. It was a promise, a commitment to building a life filled with love, art, and everything in between. It wasn't always going to be easy, but as long as they had each other, Rachel knew they could face whatever came their way. The wedding day arrived sooner than Rachel had anticipated, but in many ways, it felt like a dream. As she stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment, looking at the woman who had come so far from the nervous waitress she once was, she couldn't help but smile. Today was the beginning of her forever with Liam, the man who had shown her that she could be loved for who she truly was, no pretense, no games. Her heart raced as she thought back to everything that had led to this moment, how uncertain she had been, how much she had questioned if she was enough for him. But now, standing here, ready to marry the man who had become her partner in every sense of the word, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Rachel had always dreamed of having a small, intimate wedding, and despite Liam's initial suggestion of a grand affair, he had insisted on giving her the wedding she truly wanted. It was simple, just a few close friends and family, but it was everything. She glanced at the photo on the dresser, of her mother, of her late father, and took a deep breath. She was doing this for herself, for the woman she had become. Downstairs, Liam was waiting, pacing nervously. He had always been composed, always had a plan, but today was different. This was the most important moment of his life, and he was finally allowing himself to feel the weight of it. As he waited for Rachel to come down, he couldn't help but remember the first time they met, how nervous and unsure she had been. Now, she was standing in front of him, strong and confident, and it made him fall in love with her all over again. When Rachel finally descended the stairs, Liam's breath caught in his throat. She looked more beautiful than he had ever imagined. The simple white dress, her hair pulled back softly, her eyes sparkling with a joy that made his heart skip. She was radiant. "You're stunning," Liam whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Rachel smiled, her heart swelling with love. "You clean up well yourself," she teased, her voice full of warmth. The ceremony was simple but beautiful. As they exchanged vows, there was no grandiose speech, just a promise to love, cherish, and support one another through whatever life had in store for them. It was a promise of a lifetime, built on trust and mutual respect. The small crowd watched with smiles as Rachel and Liam sealed their vows with a kiss, and for the first time in a long time, Rachel felt like she truly belonged. After the ceremony, they shared a quiet moment together, just the two of them. Liam held Rachel's hand, his thumb brushing over her skin. "I still can't believe this is real," he said softly, his eyes full of awe. Rachel squeezed his hand. "Me neither," she replied with a laugh. "But here we are." The evening continued with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. Rachel's friends and family gathered around them, celebrating the couple's happiness. It wasn't a lavish event, but it was full of love, and that was all they needed. As the night drew to a close, Liam and Rachel found themselves alone on the balcony, looking out at the city skyline. The stars above seemed to shine just a little bit brighter, and Rachel couldn't help but feel like the whole world had shifted. "What's next for us?" she asked, turning to Liam. He smiled and wrapped his arms around her. "We take it one day at a time," he said. "We've already come so far, and now we get to build our future together. We're just getting started." Rachel rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. With Liam by her side, she knew they could face anything. As the night sky stretched above them, Rachel realized that this was the life she had always dreamed of, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And it was theirs, together. They didn't need anything more than each other. And so, as they stood there on the balcony, with the city lights twinkling in the distance, Rachel knew that this was just the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one that they would write together, hand in hand, with love leading the way. Months passed, and life with Liam was everything Rachel had hoped for and more. Their love continued to grow stronger each day as they settled into their new life together. They spent their time working on their individual dreams, but always supporting each other. Liam had helped Rachel expand her art studio, bringing in a steady stream of customers and allowing her to grow her passion into a full-fledged business. For Rachel, seeing her art come to life in a place she had built from the ground up was a dream come true. Yet, even with all the success they were experiencing, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As much as she loved her new life with Liam, there was always a part of her that felt uneasy. She couldn't forget where she had come from. The small apartment, the struggles to make ends meet, the feeling of being out of place in a world so different from her own. One evening, As they sat together in the living room of their shared home, Rachel couldn't keep her thoughts to herself any longer. "Liam," she began, her voice tinged with hesitation, "do you ever feel like we're living in a bubble? Like everything is perfect, but, I don't know, maybe too perfect?" Liam looked at her, his brow furrowing with concern. "What do you mean?" he asked, leaning in closer. Rachel took a deep breath before continuing. "I love everything we have. I love you. I love the studio, but sometimes I just feel like I'm living someone else's life. I wasn't always like this, and I don't want to forget where I came from." Liam's face softened, and he took her hand in his. "I understand," he said gently. "It's hard, isn't it? Feeling like you don't belong, even when everything seems perfect on the outside. But Rachel, you don't have to forget where you came from. I don't want you to change. I love you for who you are, and that includes all of you. The woman who struggled to make ends meet. The woman who dreamed of a better life. That's who you are, and that's why I fell in love with you." Rachel felt a lump form in her throat as his words sunk in. She had been so caught up in the success they were building together that she had forgotten to appreciate the journey that had brought her here. She had always feared that her past would hold her back, that it would make her unworthy of the life she was now living. But Liam had just reminded her that it was exactly that journey, those struggles, that made her who she was today. "I've been so focused on the future," she said softly, "that I've forgotten to appreciate how far I've come." Liam smiled and kissed her forehead. "You don't have to forget, Rachel. Your past is part of your story, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. Together, we'll build a future that honors where you came from and where you're going." His words soothed her, and for the first time in a long time, Rachel felt at peace with her past and present. She didn't have to choose between the two. She could embrace both and move forward with confidence. The next few months were filled with new adventures. Rachel continued to grow her business, and with Liam's support, they expanded into new projects together. He helped her build a community around her art, organizing events that brought people together to appreciate creativity and support local artists. It wasn't just about the business anymore. It was about building something meaningful, something that connected them both to the world in a way they hadn't expected. One day, as they sat together in their favorite cafe, Rachel looked at Liam and realized just how far they had come. "You." "No," she said with a smile. "This feels like the life I was always meant to have. I never thought I'd get here, but I'm so glad I did. And I'm glad I got here with you." Liam reached across the table and took her hand. "I feel the same way," he said. "This is just the beginning for us, Rachel. We've built something beautiful together, and I know there's so much more ahead. We've got each other, and that's all that matters." As they sat there, hand in hand, Rachel couldn't help but feel that everything had fallen into place. They had built a life together, one that was grounded in love, trust, and the shared belief that anything was possible when you had the right person by your side. The future still held unknowns, but for the first time in her life, Rachel wasn't afraid. She knew that, no matter what came their way, they would face it together, with open hearts and unwavering support for each other. The months that followed were a time of reflection and growth for Rachel and Liam. As they continued to build their future together, they found that the challenges they faced only brought them closer. Rachel's art studio was thriving, and Liam's career continued to rise, but their focus was no longer just on success. It was on each other. Their love had blossomed into something that was no longer just about ambition and achievement, but about deep, unwavering support. As their bond grew stronger, Rachel found herself becoming more confident, not just in her relationship with Liam, but in herself. She began to realize that she was no longer the woman who had felt out of place in a world of wealth and privilege. She was part of that world now, and she had earned her place in it, not by changing who she was, but by embracing every part of herself. One afternoon, as Rachel worked in her studio, she received a call from Liam. His voice sounded more serious than usual, and her heart skipped a beat. "Rachel, I need to talk to you about something important," he said. "Can you meet me at the park?" Rachel's mind raced as she quickly closed her art supplies and grabbed her jacket. She couldn't help but wonder what this was about. Had something gone wrong? Was he unhappy? She arrived at the park, where Liam was waiting near their usual bench. He looked calm, but there was something in his eyes that told her this wasn't a casual conversation. As she sat beside him, he took her hand in his and looked into her eyes. "Rachel, You know how much I love you, right? He asked softly. I've always loved you, from the moment we met. Rachel nodded, her heart swelling with love. I know, Liam. I love you too. I've been thinking a lot about the future, Liam continued, his voice steady. And I want to ask you something. Rachel's pulse quickened. What is it? I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Rachel. Not just in business, not just as partners. I want you to be my wife, and I want to build a family with you. His words took her breath away. She had always imagined this moment, but hearing him say it aloud made everything feel so real. Liam, she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. Are you sure? Liam smiled gently, brushing a tear from her cheek. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I want to marry you, Rachel. I want to be with you forever. Rachel felt a wave of emotion wash over her. All the fears and insecurities she had once carried seemed to melt away in that moment. She knew this was where she was meant to be. Yes, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. Liam's face lit up with pure joy as he pulled her into a tight embrace. They held each other for a long time, savoring the moment. When they finally pulled away, Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful ring, one that sparkled in the soft light of the setting sun. I know we've had our challenges, he said, his voice full of emotion, but I wouldn't change a thing, because every step of this journey has led me to you. Will you marry me, Rachel? Rachel looked at the ring, her heart racing. It was everything she had ever dreamed of, and more. She had always feared that her past would hold her back, but here she was, about to marry the man she loved, the man who had always believed in her. No matter where she came from. Yes, Liam, she said again, tears streaming down her face. I'll marry you. As they embraced once more, Rachel realized that this was the culmination of everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of. She wasn't just marrying Liam for his wealth or status. She was marrying him because he saw her, truly saw her, and loved her for who she was. She wasn't just the girl from the small apartment anymore. She was his partner, his equal, and they were building something together. The future stretched out before them, full of endless possibilities. With Liam by her side, Rachel knew that they could face whatever came their way, together. They had already built a life based on love, trust, and mutual respect, and now, they would build a family, creating a future that was all their own. The wedding day arrived, and Rachel couldn't help but feel a rush of emotions as she stood at the altar, holding Liam's hand. The day was everything they had dreamed of and more. Simple, intimate, filled with love. As she looked at Liam, standing there with a look of admiration in his eyes, she knew that every step of their journey had been worth it. From the first moment they met, the awkward encounter at the cafe, to the times of doubt and uncertainty, to now, everything had led to this moment. Rachel had come a long way from the girl who once felt out of place in Liam's world. She had grown into someone strong, confident, and deserving of the love she had found with him. And Liam, the man who had once seemed so distant, now held her heart with a tenderness that made her believe in love again. Their vows were simple but sincere, filled with promises to support each other, to grow together, and to cherish the life they would build. As they exchanged rings, Rachel couldn't help but think of how far they had come. She had never imagined that she would find someone like Liam, someone who accepted her for who she was, flaws and all. And here they were, starting a new chapter of their lives together. After the ceremony, the evening was filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts from friends and family. It was a celebration not just of their love, but of everything they had overcome to get. To this point, Rachel looked around the room, at the people who had supported them, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had never felt so loved, so accepted. Later that night, as they stood together on the balcony of their hotel suite, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Liam turned to Rachel with a smile that still took her breath away. I can't believe this is really happening, he said softly, his voice full of awe. Rachel leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his embrace. I can't believe it either, she said, her voice thick with emotion. But I'm so glad it is. They stood there in silence for a moment, just enjoying the peace of the night. Then, Liam kissed her gently, a kiss that promised a lifetime of love and happiness. As they pulled away, he looked into her eyes, his gaze intense and loving. This is just the beginning, Rachel, he said. The beginning of everything we've dreamed of. And I promise, I will never stop fighting for you, for us. Rachel smiled, her heart swelling with love. I know, she whispered. I feel the same way. As they walked back inside, hand in hand, Rachel realized that their journey wasn't just about love. It was about two people who had found each other in the most unexpected of ways and had built a life together, step by step. It wasn't always easy, and there were challenges along the way, but they had made it. And now, they were ready to face whatever came next, together. The rest of their lives stretched out before them, full of endless possibilities. And Rachel knew, with every part of her being, that no matter what came their way, as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything. The future was theirs to create, and she couldn't wait to see where their love would take them.